This is WCPO 9 News.
The Bengals survived on the road to get the W in Jacksonville, 34-31.
How's everyone's heart holding up?
I think I have a heart murmur right now.
Yeah, all-out shootout in Jacksonville. Game goes into overtime. It's a thriller, big game from QB6, and Money Mac clinches it.
Yeah, I mean, so many different storylines here. Somebody said earlier today, I hope it doesn't come down to a game-winning field goal. I just don't think I can take that. And I said, as long as it's Evan McPherson taking that game-winning kick, I think Bengals fans would be okay with that because you're confident in Evan McPherson. And as long as the Bengals get out of there with a win, I don't care. I don't think Bengals fans would care if it's a 21-point win or a 3-point or a 1-point win. It didn't matter. But yeah, the big topic and storyline coming out of this is the play of Jake Browning tonight. 32 of 37, 354 passing yards.
That's starting QB numbers.
Yeah. That's not starting. That's very good starting quarterback numbers. That's like we'll roll with this guy, right? Like
for sure.
That's not backup quarterback numbers. He also threw a touchdown. It was a 76-yard bomb to Jamar Chase. And when I tell you, like, he hit Jamar with his pass, like, I mean, it was a dime to Jamar Chase. We got a lot more that we'll go through. We'll break down this game from every angle that we possibly can tonight during the show. We'll also hear from head coach Zach Taylor live. We're waiting on him right now to take the podium. I assume, as normal, we'll hear from quarterback Jake Browning after the game, too, a guy who a lot of people, I'm sure, are looking forward to hearing from.
I was going to say, I said immediately, he's who I want to hear from tonight.
You know, another thing is the Bengals' run game tonight, the way they used the run game and how effective it was. 31 carries tonight. Let's not forget, last week, the Bengals called 8 designed run plays for 16 yards. Joe Mixon, 8 carries for 16 yards. Tonight, they almost doubled last week's yardage in carries.
Wow.
For 156 yards. Joe Mixon had 2 touchdowns. Even Jake Browning got in on the party.
Sure did.
And scored technically a rushing touchdown. He just, you know.
I love these numbers. Let's keep these. Let's keep this going.
I think that Bengals fans would be just fine with that. Again, a 34-31 win over a team that is vying for the top seed in the AFC. The Jaguars very much in the hunt right now to have home field advantage throughout the playoffs on the AFC side of things, right up there with the Chiefs and a few other teams right now. So, and the Ravens being one of them as well. But the Bengals go down to Jacksonville with 6 games left this season, including tonight. You look at the playoff picture, and we'll go through all this tonight, but they needed to win at least 4, maybe 5 wins in the last 6 would pretty much guarantee you a playoff spot. This is a big one because I think there's 4 more left on the schedule that are, you could say, winnable.
The wild stat I heard today too: Bengals have not won a Monday Night Football game.
Well, the road primetime.
Yep.
The Bengals have been historically over the last decade or so terrible on the road in primetime matchups, and to go down to Jacksonville and beat not just win a game, but beat a very good Jacksonville Jaguars team. Now,
when do you associate good in Jacksonville? Wow, we are living in the upside down.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a team that's been improving over the years, right? You get a good young quarterback in Trevor Lawrence, which, by the way, I think it goes without saying, everybody's thoughts with Trevor Lawrence.
Absolutely.
And Jaguars fans in terms of that tonight. I don't care who you're cheering for, what your team is.
You hate to see people go down like that.
A guy, anybody go down. But, man, Trevor Lawrence, a young star quarterback who's really built his career into something special. He was a great college quarterback at Clemson.
He was in my division. It was an all-out shootout with Clemson and Florida State.
Right, yeah.
He was a great quarterback.
Yeah, so he left the game. He was helped off the field tonight with an apparent injury. It didn't look good. Still waiting to hear exactly what that was. But obviously, you hate to hear that. But again, the positive side coming out of this, a big positive side, is the fact that the Bengals come out of this with a 34-31 win.
Yep.
We love it.
Let's take a look at some of the highlights of this game.
You want to go to the game?
Yeah.
Right,
let's show the people what we have here.
Let's go right to it. Joe Burrow, of course, out for the season, got the headset on. So it's Jake Browning. Second NFL start. He looked like a starting quarterback, and not just that, but a good starting quarterback. You know what? Let's get back to the highlights here in just a few minutes. We do have head coach Zach Taylor right on cue, right when we go to the highlights.
Always happens.
Let's go to head coach Zach Taylor live right now.
I mean, he had a great week of practice. I thought Thursday was outstanding, and that's really our big day, our third down day. I felt really good coming out of this week, getting ready for this game, and I mean, he just lit the world on fire. Halftime, I wasn't sure if we had an incompletion if the ball had hit the ground yet.
All right, you've been hearing from Bengals head coach Zach Taylor after tonight's 34-31 overtime win on the road Monday Night Football against a very good Jacksonville Jaguars team.
He is glowing like a proud dad.
As he should be. And why not? Because there have been a lot of people with critical things to say.
Oh, yeah.
And mind you, a lot of those with reason, right?
Yeah, the critiques are valid.
Bengals did not look good last week. If the Bengals go on the road to Jacksonville, and again, against a very good team, they play probably their best game of the season with backup quarterback Jake Browning in his second career NFL start.
Yeah.
You want to try to go to the highlights now?
We'll see. Hopefully Jake Browning doesn't get on the podium, but let's roll.
When he does, we will go to Jake Browning. Here we go. Joe Burrow again out for the season, so Jake Browning, second NFL start. And again, he looked great. Looked not just like a starting quarterback, but a very good starting quarterback. Jake in the first half was 17 for 19, 178 yards. A lot of play action tonight, and with good reason. They use it here. They get Jake on the move. He finds Trenton Irwin. That's a first down. Part of a 92-yard drive capped off by, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but a Joe Mixon touchdown. In fact, Mixon had 2 touchdowns in the football game. The Bengals actually had a run game tonight, and a good one. Refreshing after last week. We've mentioned that. So tie game at the half, 14-14. Early second half here. Bengals football, and Jakey's spin rate. A dime to Jamar Chase. 76 yards and a touchdown. So the Bengals take a 21-14 lead. That is the longest play of the season for the Bengals. The Jaguars would tie the game, and they did it on just the most unbelievable touchdown of the year. Should have been a pick by Dax Hill. Instead, it's a 21-21 football game. Had it in his fingertips. So Bengals football now, and as good as Jake Browning played tonight, twice the Bengals called trick plays to have receivers throw the football, and neither of them went well. This one a disaster. Tyler Boyd throws it right to the defender, Josh Allen, and it was on the first play of the drive. So the Jaguars offense back on the field inside the 10. They capitalized with a touchdown on 4th down shortly after. So it's 28-21 Jags. The script is flipped. Bengals would tie it back up on a quarterback sneak by Jake Browning, the 3rd rushing touchdown of the night for the Bengals. So it's 28-28. And I'll tell you what, we mentioned it earlier. I don't care what team you're cheering for. You never want to see this. Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence goes down awkwardly on his leg. Certainly didn't look good. He was helped off the field to the locker room. Bengals fans just experienced that a couple weeks ago with Joe Burrow. Of course, again, just hate to see that. Back to the game, 2.5 minutes left. Evan McPherson from 54 yards out, and it sneaks inside the upright. Now the Jags would tie it up later, and the game goes to overtime. In overtime, it is Evan McPherson. Again, they bring him out on the field. The defense gets a stop. The offense drives down the field. And there he is. Evan is money. Money Mac. And the Bengals get a 34-31 overtime win over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Guys, there are so many things, and I think the highlights of the game, the recap of it reflected that, but so many positive things to talk about here, even down to Evan McPherson, who missed a long 57-yard field goal early in the football game. It was actually short, which we don't typically see from Evan McPherson. Yeah. He's certainly got range from 57, but it hit off the crossbar and falls down, but he comes back and hits 2 clutch kicks late in the football game.
This is just such a nice switch up from what we saw in the beginning of the season.
Well, from last week.
Alone.
Yes, the week.
But for you and for fans who, are now like just living on a prayer that maybe we can get to a playoff situation.
Yeah.
What does that path look like?
No, it's a good question. So the Bengals have 5 games left now, and we knew going into this one that, with the 6 games left, they needed to win 4 of those to have a shot, like a legitimate shot at the playoffs, and 5 if they want to pretty much guarantee themselves, as close to guarantee as you can, a playoff spot. So now you're looking at 5 games left. 4 wins in 5 games would all but guarantee a playoff spot. 3 wins in the course of those 5 games would potentially get the Bengals in. I mean, you're looking at like a 50% chance. Nobody wants, if you're a Bengals fan, you don't want to leave it up to chance, a 50-50 shot, but 3 wins in the last 5 games would potentially get them.
And I'm sure they got to be feeling good because, of course, when you get a backup QB, things are scary because it's the unknown. Of course, with last week's performance, people might have been a little skeptical. But, again, speaking as a Florida State alum, backup QBs can do some damage, man.
Yep.
Well, yeah, let's not get Jasmine started on that after how this
we can
weekend.
unpack a lot about
we can talk a lot about that.
Yeah,
but
no,
I just want to say that backup QBs are made for this. You put all the pressure on their shoulders, and Jake Browning didn't do a great job last week, but he recouped and he put up some numbers.
Then you heard him talk about it as the game ended there, right here. He said, "I just had to stay calm. I had to focus on what I know, how I operate well."
I'm not sure you could find me a more calm quarterback, especially under the circumstances he was playing under. And look, and like I said earlier, I mean, he just hit Jamar in the #1 on his chest with that pass, and it was a walk-in touchdown for Jamar. And you talk about backup quarterbacks. The reality in the NFL is backup quarterbacks, now the situation's a little different for Jake Browning, right? But backup quarterbacks are not getting reps in practice. You're getting training camp reps with, the 2s and 3s, and you might be in a competition for the backup quarterback role like Jake Browning was, at that time in training camp. Now, again, a little bit different of a situation for Jake Browning because he did get reps during training camp this season with the ones, with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and these other guys because Joe Burrow was out with that calf strain. So Jake's timing and the level at which he knows those one receivers, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and the others, is probably advanced compared to most backup quarterbacks out there.
Yeah, he looked very prepared, very ready for this spotlight.
Yeah, and I mentioned T. Higgins there. T. Higgins returned tonight after a few weeks off with that hamstring injury, and I think back to something that my fellow sports anchor Marshall Kramsky said earlier this week. He said T. Higgins is going to impact this game whether he has a reception or not. T. Higgins can have no catches on Monday, but he will impact this football game. Now, it wasn't no catches. He had 3 catches for 36 yards, but he wasn't one of those players that you're going to look back on over the course of this game. You're going to look at Jamar Chase's 76-yard touchdown. You're going to look at Joe Mixon's 2 touchdowns. You're going to look at the great game that Jake Browning had. But I think it's very fair to say that T. Higgins had a massive impact on this football game. Does Jamar Chase get open on that 76-yard touchdown without T. Higgins in the game? Maybe. But the fact is, T. Higgins is going to demand some of that attention from the defense, no doubt.
Oh, I love when the Bengals win. It's been a long time coming, and it's nice to see that this team is back in rhythm, even with all the adversity that they've got.
And you could tell they were having fun tonight, too. This was a neck-and-neck game all night.
Oh, my God, did you hear the bass during Zach Taylor's press conference?
I was just going to say, you could hear them celebrating in the locker room behind Coach.
Jamar put Cam Taylor-Britt on live, celebrating. I mean,
Cam Taylor-Britt had to sit this one out, right?
Yeah, that wasn't fun.
Yeah, no, we talked about how much of a difference we saw in the run game tonight for the Cincinnati Bengals. I'll go back to it one more time. Last week, they ran 8 designed run plays. Joe Mixon had 8 carries for 16 yards last week. Tonight, Joe Mixon had 19 carries, more than 3 times what he had last week. And I'm sorry, I guess a little more than double what he had last week for 68 yards and 2 touchdowns. Not only that, but you get Chase Brown. There he is. You get Chase Brown involved. He had 9 carries tonight for 61 yards, and there were question marks last week about where was Chase Brown. We didn't see him in the football game, and we know he was active. We know we think that he was able to play, but we just didn't see him last week. Well, he got involved tonight, and I think it made a difference. Part of this was the fact that the Bengals were more creative in their run game. I mentioned 8 designed runs last week. 7 of those 8 designed runs last week were between the tackles. In other words, the Bengals weren't running it much, but when they were running it right up the middle. Tonight, they were creative in the run game. I think 4 of Chase Brown's first several carries of the game, 5 or 6 carries of the game, were to the outside, were outside the tackles. And I thought that the mix of using Joe Mixon and Chase Brown tonight was refreshing to see. But not only that, but the success in the run game is going to allow you to be successful in the play action game, right? And when you're talking about play action, you're talking about a fake handoff and then throwing the football to your receivers. When your run game is successful, you force the defense to key on the run. And look, this Jaguars team, the head coach Doug Peterson, when he left the field right before halftime, his only comment that he made was, we have to stop the run, because if we stop the run, then we can put extra pressure on Jake Browning when he tries to throw the ball. And so that's where it starts for us, is stopping the run game. I credit the Bengals for sticking with the run game and using that to help open up the passing game. And I give a lot of credit to the coaching staff, too, for the way they used Jake Browning and the way they put him in successful positions throwing the ball. But that's not to take anything away from Jake Browning either, because he made some very, very nice throws tonight. He had that 76-yard touchdown pass to Jamar Chase, but that's not the only one. The way he put it in windows and was successful throwing the ball tonight was impressive to see.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I don't have any more words from him. I think we've spoken on all the great things that Jake Browning can do.
Obviously, waiting to hear from him. He's the guy that everyone wants to pepper with questions tonight.
Yeah, and we will hear from him when he goes up live. I mean, I think the one other thing that we have to talk about here is the defense. Just continues to give up yards in bunches and chunks, and they continue to struggle to stop the explosive plays. I mean, play number 1 tonight for the Jacksonville Jaguars on offense was an explosive play, and it's been a topic of conversation over the last several weeks that this Bengals defense not only gives up yards, but they give up yards via explosive plays. And so many times this season we've talked about bend, don't break. This defense tonight continues to give up yards. We do have quarterback Jake Browning live right now in his press conference. Let's go there now.
Yeah, it was a big win. Really needed that one. It was fun to do it on Monday night against a really good Jacksonville team who will be in the playoff hunt going forward. And yeah, felt good.
Okay, you know the thing that sticks out to me about Jake Browning is that he talked about his Wednesday press conference, that he is the same exact person during his Wednesday press conference as he is after throwing for 354 yards and a touchdown and leading the Bengals to an overtime win. Same guy we talk to every Wednesday. I figured it out, though. He's feels empowered by Washington's college football playoff berth this weekend. In the playoffs, Washington is in the playoff for the first time since 2016. Please don't take that the wrong way. Good weekend for Washington and for Jake Browning. But the one thing that stuck out to me about what he said there is, he said, I can watch others do it. I can watch Joe. I can watch whoever's ahead of me do it. But until you're out there, it's like you can watch 10 people jump off the diving board into the deep end. But until you jump in and you got to hold your nose and whatever, you don't know what that's like. So I thought it was an interesting thing to hear him say.
Well, Caleb, we're going to be back with you and hopefully Marshall Kramsky as well to talk more of this Bengals win. But before we get to more sports and stuff, we want to check in with Chief Meteorologist Steve Raleigh. And there we go.
There he is.
There's our guy of the hour. Marshall, tell us how you're feeling. Tell us what you've observed. I know finally we have a lot to talk about because there's a win.
I observed hope tonight. I observed that this season is not over. We've been saying it's not over. Tonight proves this season far from over. Jake Browning, a capable quarterback in what could be an elite offense. The Jacksonville Jaguars have one of the best defenses in the NFL. They shocked so many experts, the Bengals, tonight, especially because this Bengals offense, we thought the only way they could win is if it was a low-scoring game, but it wound up being a high-scoring game, and they get the win.
Hey, Marshall, as we show video here of Jake Browning and some of the good things he did, including that 76-yard touchdown pass to Jamar Chase, what stood out to you? We've spent time here talking tonight about Jake Browning, and you were just now in his press conference yourself, face-to-face. What stuck out to you about Jake tonight and his performance?
Jake Browning even mentioned it in his press conference. He's a winner. He might not have won in the NFL yet, but he has won a lot of football games in his career, and he is a gamer. Jake Browning found a way. He's been having so much confidence in the last couple of weeks, saying he's ready for the job, saying he's going to get better every week. It's going to take a little bit of time. And everything Jake Browning has told us has come true. He came out here poised and ready to make plays. They did not have to really adjust the offense in the sense of, oh, we have a guy who's more of a game manager. He threw for over 350 yards. He had one passing touchdown, but it very easily could have been 3 passing touchdowns. Jake Browning is a completely competent quarterback, which is saying a lot. Backup quarterbacks don't often come in and play competent football to help you go and get a win against the #1 team in your conference. Jake Browning played a heck of a game, and as he said in his press conference, he doesn't think he's plateauing just yet.
I love that. Was my favorite thing about what Jake Browning said, is because he did say that earlier this week, and I'm not sure if viewers could hear the question that was asked at that time. But Jake Browning earlier this week said, at some point a player plateaus. They reach their point where they're playing their brand of football, their best brand of football. He said, I'm not at that point yet. He said, I feel like I'm still heading up the side of that plateau before I reach that point. He said tonight, I'm not planning on plateauing anytime soon. So he feels like there's still gas left in the tank there, and there's still things left to see from Jake Browning. Marshall, we've talked a lot tonight about the run game for the Bengals. I mean, 16 yards last week on designed runs. Tonight, they ran the ball 31 times. They almost doubled last week's yardage in carries tonight. I have to imagine that was a huge part in your mind of the reason this offense really popped tonight, and part of the reason why Jake Browning did look so good.
Caleb, I don't want to give myself too much kudos, but I'm glad you liked that question because I was the one who asked it.
Here we go.
As far as the run game goes, yeah, it was yes, it was me. Yes, the run game was huge tonight. From two running backs, Joe Mixon, who had 2 touchdowns and over 60 rushing yards, plus a bunch more receiving, and Chase Brown, who has been injured a good part of this year. He was the 5th-round draft pick for the Bengals this season. The rookie, he looked very, very good, and it was more than just the offensive line playing well. Head coach Zach Taylor did say the offensive line played very well, but Chase Brown was making guys miss on the first and second level. He broke out for, I think it was a 32-yard run, which is the longest run of the season for a Cincinnati Bengals running back. So the run game was so important, and that's not a shock to any football fans or any Bengals fans. They've been asking, why are they not running the football more? They come out, they run the football very effectively, and look what happens. It's one of the best games of any quarterback for the Bengals this year is able to have because they could run the football effectively.
Yeah, it's the 3rd time this season the Bengals as a team have gone over 100 yards on the ground, but this was by far in basically every single way. I don't know how you could even argue this. It was their best performance of the season on the ground, even when you just look at the yardage. 156 yards as a team on the ground. Joe Mixon, 19 carries for 68 yards, 2 touchdowns. Chase Brown, 9 carries for 61 yards. Marshall, we talked earlier tonight as you were standing inside the stadium pregame, then you moved outside the stadium. We were like hearing Who Dey chants, and then we were talking about a minute ago that you could see shots on the broadcast of Bengals fans in the stadium. I guess I'd like to hear it from you, who was there in the stadium, and when you're there and you can look over top from the press box or what have you, you can kind of get an idea. How many Bengals fans, you don't need to guess an exact number, but how much of a showing was there tonight from Bengals fans? If you got an exact number, give us that too.
Thanks for not making me guess a number. You know I'm not a math guy. But with that said, it was here's how I'll best put it. Normally, when you're at a home stadium, it's very easy to tell when something good or bad happens for the home versus the away team based on the crowd's cheers. It was difficult tonight. When field goals were missed, it was hard to hear who was cheering and who wasn't. So I'd say it was not 50-50, but there were enough Bengals fans here that it made the journalists kind of raise an eyebrow and be like, wait, who was that positive for? So Who Dey Nation, applause to you. You really traveling out here. I think it made a big difference in this game.
Before we get out of here, Caleb, last words on this Bengals win.
Well, look, I think you have to look ahead, right? 5 games left this season. The next one is at home. You got 2 home games coming up, one against the Colts, one against the Vikings. Then you go on the road for 2 against the Steelers and Chiefs. You finish up with the Browns. If the Bengals win 3 of those, they give themselves a shot at the playoffs. You win 4, you're pretty much in.
Fingers crossed. We appreciate you for staying with us very late tonight. We'll see you back here tomorrow.